The sons and daughters of Jean-Baptiste Jacquet, The History of the Black Jacquets in Louisiana, was published in 2021 as an update to the similarly titled book published in 1995. Privately published, this 200-page book is part of the 3-volume set forming the Encyclopedia of Jacquet History. Its large dimensions and multiple volumes make this a visual artifact worthy of prominent display before you even get to the contents. The book features extensive research on the history of the African American/Black Jacquet and related families who originated in Louisiana during the 1700s and 1800s, and their descendants up to the 21st century. It begins with Francois Hyacinthe Jacquet, dubbed the grandfather of the Black Jacquets in America. It is complete with new information that doubles the previous content, as well as plenty of ancestral photographs of people born as far back as the late 1840s. Jacquet ancestry from France is included back to the early 16th century. The great, as in wonderful, ancestors journeyed from Africa and France to a land that was not yet Louisiana, a land that was not yet America, and a land that was not yet free for all. Author Russell Jacquet-Acea spent years traveling, and he conducted countless interviews and research on hundreds of documents. He discovered enough to come to the conclusion that all of the colored, Negro, Black, African American people in this country with the last name Jacquet or grandparents with that name are related, because our common ancestor was Jean-Baptiste Jacquet, the mixed-race son of a white Frenchman and a Negro slave woman. Jacquet-Acea shares his research and how he collected it, explaining how the ancestors overcame struggles to become successful American citizens while preserving family history. He says, genealogy is a never-ending work that is ongoing, as there is always more to discover about our history. He adds, read on so that you can pass on this valuable family information, valuable family history to your children and grandchildren. He's a native New Yorker with more than 40 years of experience as an astronomy, math, music, and physical education teacher. He started writing about his family history in 1990, and now Jacquet-Acea's interests include the history and genealogy of the ancient Egyptian pharaohs and biblical narratives of the Hebrews and Israelites in Egypt. From the author's bio, we get that he wrote this book in part because he is an inherent teacher. Also, so that other family members can have something to build upon, and so that family members can pass on this valuable family history to their children and grandchildren. The dedication and acknowledgments of this book read, to Elizabeth Egas Booth, my beloved late mother and my greatest teacher in life. To Marie Bernice Jacquet Wiltz, the late matriarch of the Jacquet family, who served as curator of information during her 3 centuries of life. To Jean-Baptiste Illinois Jacquet, the great family musician who fulfilled his promise. To the Reverend Donald J. Herbert, Louisiana researcher and creator of Southwest Louisiana Records, a monumental work for which this author owes the writing of his history and this book. To the ascended masters east and west, the preservers of truth throughout the ages. To Sister Lucia and the last of the Fatima children, and to beloved Pope John Paul II. Although he did not consecrate Russia to the Immaculate Heart of Mary as instructed by Sister Lucia, we can do so ourselves. From the dedications and acknowledgments, we got that the author wrote this book in part to express gratitude for ancestors and to express gratitude for the Catholic Church. The introduction to this book reads, if there's common ground among the world's genealogists, it is to trace our history back as far as one can go before hitting the impassable wall. Former President George W. Bush, as well as his 7th cousin John Forbes Carey, can both trace their common 58th great-grandfather back to Julius Caesar. Why can't us common folks do the same? Where and when did we lose the oral traditions of passing down the stories of our family history? In Africa, they have the tribal griot, who could narrate the tribe's genealogy hundreds of years into the past. The Native American Indians had their totem poles with carvings of human figures or animals to serve as a reminder for the family tribe to remember their ancestry. The royal houses of England and Europe passed down their records of royal lineage and kept written records of them, which traces them all back to the tribe of Judah, one of the 12 sons of Jacob, who later was renamed Israel. The Old Testament, of course, tells us story after story of who begot who, and the first book in the New Testament, the book of Matthew, starts off by telling us that Jesus Christ, the son of David, the son of Abraham. And then, reciting the genealogy of both Joseph and his wife Mary, the mother of Jesus Christ. There must be something important about knowing one's history. And I believe that to keep people from knowing their ancestry lowers their self-esteem, hides their true identity, and takes away the appreciation for our common earthly culture. Independent university studies have traced the history of all mankind by way of the Y chromosome of the male back to one male, an ancient man in Africa, and the mitochondrial DNA of the female back to one female, an ancient woman in Africa. The ancient male ancestor they call Y chromosomal Adam, and the woman they call mitochondrial Eve. These two are the ancestors of the present human race whose descendants migrated out of Africa more than 80,000 years ago by braving the terrors of the southern end of the Red Sea, crossing it near present-day Yemen. By 8000 BC, they had inhabited every land on planet Earth, all human beings, from the blonde hair, blue eye in Sweden to the black-skinned, curly-haired girl in Africa, can trace their roots to this original Adam and the original Eve. Through DNA registration today, on various genealogy sites, people are matching up with lost family members. The most exciting news about DNA comes from researcher Greg Braden, who has discovered that our genetic code can actually be read. Each cell in your body is like a separate library containing 46 books for each chromosome, with the genes inside representing paragraphs and sentences to be read. According to his research, just as every book before chapter 1 has a preface or introduction, our DNA has the same thing, with the opening sentence of the first layer of DNA in approaching the boundary where science and religion are having a reconvergence. Scientists and religious theologians are examining the God Code research. When many other researchers verify this, our understanding of life in the universe will change dramatically. Regardless of race, religion, heritage, or lifestyle, the message is the same in each cell of every woman, child, and man, past and present. The message reminds us that we are family, and we are here to care for one another. The story of the Jacquet family is a 200-year history of their trials and tribulations in Louisiana from the beginning of the 19th century to the early 20th century. The story of the Jacquet family history in Louisiana is very much connected with the city of St. Martinville, which became the seat of government for St. Martin Parish in 1807. The city is located in southwest Louisiana on the Bayou Teche, just south of the city of Lafayette, and about 120 miles west of New Orleans. The area was originally called Attakapas Post for the military station formed there, named after the local Native American Indian tribe. To the east of Attakapas, a military station formed there named after the local Native American Indian tribe. That is, to the east of Attakapas, a tribe was known for hanging freshly killed animal carcasses on a certain tree to warn other tribes that this was their territory. the tree stick dipped in red blood, the area was known as the Red Stick, and in French, the name for red stick is Bâton Rouge. The area quickly began to grow into a major city when the French colonized the area. With the Texas oil boom of the early 20th century, many Jacquet families began to move out and explore the high frontier of the West, first to Texas, then to California. Other Jacquet families remained and still live in the St. Martinville, New Iberia area and surrounding cities, and some still live on that same property their great Jacquet ancestors lived on. There are stories to tell in this history book that some may find disheartening. Stories of slavery, of death, of family deceit, of betrayal, of infidelity and illegitimate children, and other stories that many may find unsettling. Nevertheless, there are many more stories of the good times and highlights of Jacquet family members that must be told. The field workers who toiled day and night, the musicians, priests, teachers, and athletes who left behind their legacy to be passed on gene by gene. The truth must be told, no matter how good or how bad they appear to others. For to hide the truth only allows future generations to look upon us with resentment and doubt. Future generations will want to continue this research about the Jacquet family and other related families. This is research which can never be complete, because no matter how much information you may obtain, there is always more to discover. Our genealogy goes back more than just a few hundred years, and God only knows how many mothers and fathers have come in line before us. Thus, the research and writing of the Jacquet family history and related families is ongoing. And this revision of both volumes, more than 2 decades after the first publishing of Volume 1, proves that. Notes that were hastily scribbled on pages of notebook paper during family reunions and research trips to Louisiana became the typewritten pages of Volume 1, the prototype for the Volume 2 book, and now the final reworked and edited reproduction of the original works. Perhaps the next generation of Jacquets will take the torch and continue the research and follow up with Volume 3. Most of the information gathered about the Jacquet family in this book has been obtained from records in the city of St. Martinville, mostly from church and courthouse records. There were also countless interviews with family members who are quoted in the book. However, present-day researchers can do things easier at home. During the unfortunate COVID crisis of 2020, there was no other more valuable genealogy resource for me than the online research site provided by the Church of the Latter-day Saints, LDS, at familysearch.org. Much more information to start off the search of a particular ancestor involving birth, marriage, and death dates has been obtained directly from or referred to from the works of Father Donald J. Hebert, pronounced Jacquet-Acea. His works, entitled Southwest Louisiana Records, are a most valuable resource, as virtually all of the church baptismal and marriage records in the parishes of Southwest Louisiana from about 1756 to about 1908 have been cataloged and alphabetized by name and year in separate books, making it much easier for a researcher to locate the who, what, when, and where information the researcher seeks. Much of this work on the history of the Jacquet family in Louisiana could not have been found without the help of Father Hebert's books. Truly, the entire history of the Black Jacquet families can be found within the courthouse and church records of Louisiana. In conclusion, there were hundreds of interviews conducted by me in trying to find out the correct family information, and hundreds of documents to read through, interpret, and translate. Obviously, there will be mistakes and omissions, and I make apologies here in advance. The greatest fear is that someone who should be in the book is left out. Lots of corrections and additions have been added to this edition, and hopefully it will be satisfactory for the future historians who come after us. With oral history playing a large part in our history, I can only go by what names and information people send me, if they send it at all. But sometimes they are wrong. Take, for example, the long-time, widely held family story of Pop Phil's Jacquet's daughter he sired out of wedlock, who was named Mariah Adams. After finding nothing on her for years, I stumbled across her marriage document by accident, as it had parents listed as Phil's Jacquet and Marie Allen, when she married Wilfred Lawrence in 1914. From there, I was able to connect her family and children to the Jacquet story. Page 131. The name of Pop Phil's daughter was actually Maria Allen. The point is that family members will relay to you what they believe is a truthful account, but you still have to try to verify it with documents. I do try and confirm information sent to me by reading the reference books I have and looking up documents on the FamilySearch.org site, which is a most valuable goldmine of genealogy library information. There are other genealogy sites of your choice. I urge you to seek your own history and start to compile your tree by going there to their online site, especially since most libraries are locked up due to the COVID pandemic. Written by Russell Jacquet-Acea, Seattle, Washington, December 25th, Christmas Day, 2020. From this introduction, we get that the author wrote this book in part to boost his own and fellow descendants' self-esteem, to reveal his own and fellow descendants' true identity, to provide appreciation for common earthly culture, to connect to lost family members, because truth must be told, of more good stories than bad, for future generations to build upon, to provide revised, updated information, and to encourage others to write their family histories. Combined with the previous reasons stated for why this book combined with previous reasons for why we write, this book makes at least 13 additional statements about why, including the author's previous conveyances of why he wrote this book, starting with being an inherent teacher down to expressing gratitude for the church. So this has been, or is, there's much more to this and related series, but it is a wonderful exploration of why we say we write Black genealogies. That is, what is in our own words. There's so much more that is between the words and between the lines about why we write these books. So let's look at more about why we say we write these books in the Genealogy, Tourism, and Education Records series, number Roman numeral 5A, and get an understanding of the unstated reasons we write and the benefits we reap from these books as we take a look at the Genealogy, Tourism, and Education Records series numbered Roman numeral 6.